Introducing the genius who fuses legal wizardry with digital dynamite, the mastermind behind Andrometa, and the compliance king who's got more loopholes quaking in fear. He's the knight of Nintendo, the ace of Andrometa, and the wild card of the courtroom. It's Michael Christine.
Hey, what up, everybody? Happy to be here. Can't wait to get into it.
GG, it's great to have you. Kate, I'm sending you an invite. Get up on the panel so I can introduce you at some point as well. Up next, he helped define what streaming looks like today, then left Twitch with a tattoo, a legacy, and a flamethrower full of ideas. Now he's bringing that same kinetic energy to Wildcard and thousands, serving strategy hotter than a rage quit Reddit thread. It's the titan of Twitch, the baron of budgets, and the god of glitter. It's Tony V.
Let's go! Stoked to be here on Gamified.
Great to have you as always, big dog. Up next, do we have this? He is here. He's the truth spewing, suit skewering ex poker kingpin who wants to turn the card game into a cultural revolution. Say that 5 times fast. But when he saw the game rigged in finance, tech, and policy, he turned to blockchain. And that brings us to today. My angry Yakuza girlfriend is almost here, and it's a shakedown of everything fake in the space. It's the founder who can't be bought, and he's about to go live. It's Sinjin.
Hey, thanks, Sam. I'm awake and I'm ready to eat some souls today.
ready to eat some souls and take a nap, my man. I love you, dude. Thanks for waking up as early as you have for many months now. Appreciate you. Up next, he's a strategic savant with the conviction of a founder and the fandom of a Colts fan, which is to say he believes in lost causes. He simplifies like a saint, swings golf clubs like a demon, and always has RuneScape open on another tab during meetings. He's the only guy who will roast your roadmap while queuing up for NHL 25, and it's our CSO, the Chief Simplifying Officer. It's Gnoc.
No, we don't talk about NHL 25 anymore, Sam. That's the game that made me realize I am way too fucking old to be playing EA sports games on a yearly basis. Those kids are fucked.
What was the key thing, Gnoc? What was, if you had to boil it down to one thing that made you feel that way about it?
Dude, 2 years ago, we're in league play. We make it to the top league, me and 5 other guys. This year, we played 8 games, couldn't even fucking score a goal. I don't know what happened in the last 24 months, but we got annihilated.
You didn't know you were in bot lobbies up until that moment. Up next, most BD guys flex slide decks. This guy flexes just literally, he flexes, and also metaphorically. But he's the guy who can explain subnets and make you feel bad for skipping leg day. It's the bench pressing brand whisperer. Make way for the strategist with shoulders the size of boulders from AVAX. It's Mr. Wills Spangler.
The one morning I don't lift, you make my intro lift centric just to make me feel a little bit worse about it. So thanks for that, Sam.
This is me fat shaming you, Wills. Get back in the gym. You're no longer 99.8% muscle. Up next, from rock walls to the card halls, he's scaling metas and climbing markets. The co-founder of Parallel and Colony, and a collector so committed even his hoodies have lore. From Web3 esports to sci-fi sagas, this shroud-slinging savant built Parallel from the ground up while staying grounded in his style. Welcome the dry humor demigod of deck builders. It's the card-slinging cinephile. It's Kohji.
What's up, man? Thankfully, not out of breath this episode. I did my workout before I came. So just for you, Sam, you told me to bring my B game, and I'm going to bring that B game.
A meaningful upgrade over the D game that we're used to getting from Kohji. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Next, he coded your childhood, your grandma's favorite game, and probably the reason that your productivity graph looks like a roller coaster. He made Solitaire sexy and Dungeon Siege spicy, but his next project is a trading card game where Sherlock Holmes and Medusa can go toe-to-toe on the blockchain, where he's turning folklore into firepower with Project O. He's the deck daddy, the Gandalf of game design. Pay respects and pull a foil with Kevin Lambert.
Ooh, that was a good one. Thanks, Sam. Appreciate all those references. That was really cool. And it's great to be here with you fine folks.
Great to have you back as always, brother. And 3 TCG legends on the panel today. It's a juice. I should have come up with more TCG topics to honor the occasion here, but I'm sure you guys have plenty of takes on all the other things that we have here today for you. But up next, before he was building AI agents for 3D adventures, he was behind the curtain at Nintendo, pulling the production levers of childhood magic. But he's traded Mario for machine learning, and now he's the co-founder of Youmio, training simulations to feel like soulmates. It's the composer of Connection, the designer of tomorrow. It's Michael O'Connor.
Nice, an interesting faux pas there. Trading simulations. Let's trade simulations. I can roll with that.
Let's do it. Is this you announcing your new NFT launch, each of which is its own AI?
It's in my new project, Trade Sim.
Appreciate you coming on as always, Michael. I know it's late for you too. And up next, at just 17 years old, he wasn't just playing Magic the Gathering, he was mastering it, taking home the U.S. National Championship like it was a side quest, but that was just his tutorial level. Since then, he's gone from Pro Tour champion to prolific designer, building Ascension, and now his next passion, SolForge Fusion. It's the shuffler of systems, the deck building demigod. Damn it, I said demigod twice. It's Justin Gary.
There could be multiple deck building demigods. I'll take it. Happy to be here.
Thanks, Justin. I appreciate that forgiveness. We're gonna do great on this panel with kind-hearted people like you. I appreciate it. She's covered console wars and crypto winters with a sentence structure as sharp as her pen. An MFA trained creative writer and the mind behind Blockworks The Drop. She's her favorite reporter's favorite reporter. Before she was documenting DAO drama and token trends, she was crafting stories in Hollywood and shaping prose at Columbia. Welcome back to the panel. It's been far too long for the mage of media, reporting live from the edge of the internet. It's Kate Irwin.
Hi, thanks for having me back. I'm back because I wrote a very controversial thread. Ah!
Great to have you, Kate. It's controversial because it's like an interesting opinion, though, not because you said something like completely idiotic that everybody was upset about. So I think it's going to be fine. I'm excited to talk about it. Thanks so much for coming on the show as Twitter freaks out on my side of the internet. Up next, he's the cold-blooded king of commentary, the gecko with the gift of gab, and the only panelist here who can win Oh Baby Kart and an argument at the same time. Tiny but terrifying, it's the 2.4-pound typhoon of hot takes. It's Lemz.
What is up, everyone? And Kate, we're glad you put the spicy take out there. It makes we have like an interesting topic for today, and I feel like we've talked about single player on the panel before, and now we get to really dissect it and get some different takes from. Man, we got a big panel of big brains today. So excited to get into it.
Dude, I forgot there's an entire soundboard. I just accidentally opened it, and it took me the last 2.5 minutes to figure out how to close it again. Twitter's a nightmare, dude. This is ridiculous. Who uses this stuff? Up next, we got to give a huge shout out to our amazing sponsors. Prepare to ascend to the peak of innovation with Avalanche, the official blockchain of Gamified. With possibilities as high as the Himalayas, Avalanche allows you to own a digital Everest, where your community plants its flag and your own token fuels the climb. So whether you're a seasoned Sherpa or a curious climber, come explore the Avalanche possibilities. Plus, you could find us in London if you were there. It was friggin' incredible. AVAX Summit was a beast, both there and in Buenos Aires, along with many of their other favorite folks. So don't be left at the cold next time. Make sure you make it out to the next AVAX Summit. Absolutely banger event. And of course, Game 7 isn't just your run-of-the-mill developer. They're architects of growth, building a better landscape for Web3 gaming, the official infrastructure of Gamified. They've got this incredible toolkit with Summon, a superpowered magnet that keeps players hooked, plus Hyperplay, your fast lane into Web3 gaming, making it a breeze to discover and dive into new games. Shout out to Game 7, the infrastructure innovators, making it all come together. And one more real quick thing. If you like this show, even just a little bit throughout the show, maybe give us 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere else that you listen to your podcast. We're on like 10 different things now. It's basically our XP system, and we're trying to level up, so we'd appreciate it. But no worries if you're too busy. It's cool. It's cool. We can wait. What's the word for Call of Duty update? Shilling you premium skins in the weapons menu. The latest Black Ops 6 update has added a new quote-unquote feature on top of your weapon selection screen. Every time you toggle between weapon builds, you get to see a new ad for skins. One player said that they wouldn't mind if it was a free-to-play game like Warzone, but not in a game that I paid like $70 for. So should this be expected? Is this just a natural progression, or have they crossed the line here? And what's the word for Activision placing ads above the weapon selection menu in Call of Duty? I'm actually going to go to my co-host with the most here, Lemz, and then I'm going to Tony V.
All right, my word is Activision, because fucking Activision. I feel like that, should we really be that surprised? I mean, I fucking hate this. I think it's really shitty. I totally agree with the take on if it was a free-to-play game, it's like, yeah, that's, as much as it'll be annoying, the game was at least free-to-play. But man, you go out and you buy a new launch game, and then you get, additional ads shoved in your face. super shitty, but also not all that surprising from Activision. And even if people complain about it and they get conversions from it, you know they're going to do it over and over and over again.
Yeah, the beginning of the end would be my word if I was allowed to use like infinite hyphens. Let's go over to Tony V, then to Kevin Lambert.
Yeah, it's the word is old news, hyphenated, old hyphen news. This has been going on for years, guys. Like I got promoted one of my last years at Amazon because I got Call of Duty specifically to put an image of the free Twitch Prime shit that you got in Call of Duty that year in the game in the exact same merchandising slot that's being talked about right now. And this was like Hazel's 9. This was like 6 years ago, 7 years ago. I saw this and I was like, this is not a new thing at all. I think that and honestly, like I also don't think it's a terrible thing, right? Like, you know, say what you want about like it offending your eyes, but if you don't like it, don't click on it. And if I think we talk a lot about like the importance of live services. I think last Gamified we talked about the importance of live services and in video games. And for all the shitty stuff that they do, I'm not up here defending Bobby Kotick. He's a lizard person, but Bobby, I'm just kidding. If you ever want to work together, let me know. But you know the Call of Duty specifically, they do a lot of good stuff with their money, right? Like they put a decent amount of money into the Veterans Foundation they support every year. And the reason that I know that merchandising slot exists is because that's how I justified them giving it to us at Amazon when we were working together. I played Call of Duty for like a month, and I was like, "Hey, you guys advertise this code like charity shit that you guys do all the time. Can Amazon just like give a bunch of money to that and get that merchandising slot?" So you know, like I said, I think it's just part of having a live service game now, and people should get used to it. And I think Call of Duty does a better job than most of pushing their money around in a good way.
Dude, I love that you happen to just have a bunch of anecdotes about this type of shit. It's always my favorite thing. Let's go over to Kevin Lambert, then we're going to Gnoc.
The word is intentional, I think. Like, it's interesting that the bounds of monetization are being A/B tested in live production now by these games, like a mobile game in development would do. It's really interesting. It's sort of like now live games that we've loved and known for years are becoming monetization experiments. That's kind of interesting. It's also kind of expected, and I think the community feedback, the outrage versus the hey, this is okay, is part of their data collection. They're basically stress testing the community's tolerance to see what they think about this, and I think the timing of the ad placement is strategic. Um, Microtransaction ads being shown during customization moments are very similar to how cosmetics are pushed during like champion selections in MOBAs and stuff like that. So it's interesting the placement that they chose to put that. And then I think the last thing I'll say about it is it's probably a reflection of challenges at these studios, and even with these beloved games, they're feeling pressures to um, even premium franchises like COD, GTA, Elden Ring are potentially facing internal expectations to get more revenue, and so they're willing to accept mobile style monetization models to push their margins.
Oh God, I hate the sound of that, man. Just
The
now
end
it
of
feels
days is
gross.
near, is nigh.
Oh God, I thought this is why we just relegated mobile to its own little category. Knock, I'm going to you next. What's the word for these whatever the fuck you would call this?
The word is creativity, as in their lack of it. Man, if you're gonna shove shit in my face when I'm trying to play COD, at least get creative with it. Instead of a kill feed, give me a fucking highlight reel of some ad that you want to push, a skin, something that would have made me better in that game. There's billboards and cars and graffiti and fucking magazines all over COD maps. If you're gonna do this shit, at least do it in a creative way. It's fucking annoying, but at least make it fun.
That's a great take, short and sweet. I loved that. Let's go to Kohji up next.
Yeah, sorry. My take is we'll say big time, big hyphen time. Welcome to the big time, boys. Like video games have pushed through to like the pinnacle of entertainment. We saw it with TV, which cable wasn't necessarily free, but there was fucking ads all over that shit. Then we saw with home video, you buy a movie, and what happens before you watch the movie? A whole bunch of previews for other fucking movies. Same thing when you go to the movies. And now video games are like, fuck it. Let's just pack in, I don't care if you're paying for it, let's just pack in some more commercials for some more shit. You know, like it is just a sign that video games have become the like most premium form of entertainment, and they're just trying to get a buck wherever they can. Pretty soon we're gonna have synergies. We're gonna see ads for the TV programming around the video game, in the video game, and all that other bullshit. It's just this is just the tip of the iceberg.
That's a great take, Koji. Also, a fantastic one from Graslow in the comments, which reminds me to say, guys, drop your comments. I would love to hear your takes on what the word is here. But Graslow says, who's making the AI agent to watch the ads for me so I can focus on playing the game? Let's go over to Wills, then to Justin Gary. Wills, my boy.
I'm here. I'm cooking while I do this. But I think my word is capture, as in value capture. This is just a further push, as we've been seeing with so many other games, where selling a product isn't enough. And that's because the way that we're currently selling these products and the value that they're generating for these large companies either isn't capturing adequate value that's being provided to the consumer, or is just trying to crank everything to 11 to see how much consumers can put up with. I can't remember if it was in shitification or in slopification, but both of those words apply here. It's how bad can we make the things that people love until they turn it off. And that's it's what's happening with social media platforms. As Kohji said, it's what happened with TV. This is just going to keep happening until there is a major shakeup, which, what could potentially shake up gaming in a massive way. I don't know. I'll leave it to you guys.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge at the end. Justin, I'm going to you, and then we're tagging in Michael O'Connor and Kate Irwin.
Yeah, my word's going to be expectations, right? Because I think a lot of what comes down here is like how you choose to monetize your game and how people react to it comes down to the expectations that you have set up and that the environment has set up ahead of time, right? So a lot of people made the comment, well, if this was free to play, if this was mobile, nobody would have said a word, right? But the expectation is shifted because this is a high upfront cost premium AAA game that we're not going to do that. And so whoever jumps that expectation gap and is going to take Eros, right? And that's true for all the stuff we do, right? You're the first one is bringing crypto into a game space. People hate. I mean, I'll tell you as a personal, I took a lot of arrows from bringing crypto into a game that was a tabletop game and came to digital. People who are going to do that with AI and who are the first couple people who used AI art and brought these things in take a lot of hits. So the key is like once you start to see these moves, you need to either like do a better job of setting expectations yourself, or what you're going to see is the trend will just start moving and then this stuff becomes more normalized and then nobody's going to talk about it after. So I always look at these sort of new shifts and saying everybody gets upset because it's new, but really it's all comes down to the expectations players have.
That's a fantastic way to put it. I always think too of like, when is it enough? Like, when are people, when are these big corporations that have IPs that people love going to be like, okay, we've reached the point. I see Gnoc hitting me with the thumbs down. It's never enough. Capitalist Gnoc. Let's go over to Michael O'Connor. Then we're tagging in Kate.
Yeah, sign of the times, isn't it? It's, I mean, like, I think some context is that they've laid off like thousands and thousands of employees over the past 12 months. So that's an organization that has its own struggles. They're running all sorts of live service games, and it's worth remembering that the big IPs support the small IPs in those big organizations. The big IPs are actually what give the opportunity for those corporations to gamble on smaller IPs or introduce new IPs. So that's where they gotta, squeeze that juice. So I'd say it's hardly surprising that they're looking at different ways. I don't find it all that shocking or insulting. I think it would be a bummer um, to see kind of premium games move towards a more like aggressive free to play system. Um, Personally, that's not what I kind of want, but I think that it's natural enough that you will see more hybrids as like the whole games industry changes. We're at quite a a revolutionary moment almost with the whole video games industry. So people need to experiment with different business models in order to be able to make their businesses grow, or just to stop the absolute cataclysmic burn that some of them are facing as well. And overall, I don't think it's that insulting or too bad, like from what I've seen with Activision at the moment. And I think it's a good reference to think about when you go into the cinema and you pay your, I don't know, $5 or $20 wherever you are in the world, and you go in and you watch some ads and you watch a trailer and then you watch your movie and you've had that experience. You don't fucking walk out and whinge about the fact that Coca-Cola ad really pissed you off. So so I don't think it's that big a deal. I think that we're gamers can be, and us all, or we can all be quite sensitive towards those changes. But I think we can look at other aspects of society and business and not be too surprised.
I just want to point out that we did do that with one certain Pepsi ad, but I get the point, Mike.
Also true. The thing I always think about, the most clear example of this that we can see in real time, like very obviously, to me, feels like ads coming on NBA jerseys, if anybody watches basketball here, where they're starting with like just a really small one on the lapel, and then you look at Formula One and European soccer, and it's like literally every inch of these people's bodies is an advertisement, and then people will buy that jersey and wear a thing that says like Emirates from nipple to nipple across like all of Europe all day. It's like what they want to sleep in, it's what they want to be buried in, and they don't even care that it's literally 19 different companies because they've just been desensitized to it. I'm going to Kate Irwin next. Kate, what's the word for what Activision is doing here? And what do you think the future? Where are they going from here? Is it only going to get worse?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, stuff like that's starting to happen across games that are owned by Microsoft from what I'm seeing. Like I've noticed similar stuff happening in Overwatch where it's like, okay, now you need a shard and then you have to pay shards to upgrade the weapon and there's like 4 different levels. Instead, like before it was super simple. You just upgrade the weapon with a coin that was free that you earn in the game by playing it. And so like the monetization strategies are definitely getting more aggressive. I guess Call of Duty claimed that that like loadout menu ad was an error and people are accusing them of lying. I think that's interesting. But like, yeah, Activision is a part of this like behemoth that is Microsoft. And so I think like, Microsoft isn't doing super well. At least they don't seem to be. There's like a big contraction going on across gaming, Hollywood, even like tech a little bit. Like Microsoft laid off 6,000 people last month. And they're laying off even more people now. Hundreds more jobs after firing 6,000 last month. So yeah, and like last year they also laid off thousands of people. So I just think it's interesting, like kind of watching Microsoft last year, like put a huge amount of money into AI as like their main area of investment. And now we're sort of seeing some of that come home to roost a little bit.
Yeah, I see confirming that the guys from Insider Games called this the inshitification of Call of Duty. So he's giving a shout out to Will Spangler. Let's go to the Tatted Lawyer, then Gnoc for a quick word, then we're moving on from this one.
Yeah, I think the only word you can say here is capitalism. It's the end of an era of you can just buy a game like Expedition 33 and everything's in the game. You don't have to buy anything in addition to that. I think we're going to see so many premium titles start to include in-app purchases, in-game purchases, things like that. Because at the end of the day, they're trying to maximize revenue. They are absolutely just trying to see what can the user base take, what are they going to put up with. Every time, if you've ever noticed, when a new company tests something or an idea like this, it's immediately a mistake after the entire industry is like, what the hell, what the hell, what the hell? But then a couple months later, they just implement it fully, not as a mistake. And I think Netflix is a really good example of that. And what they did with, I think it's like Netflix Standard now has commercials, so you're basically just watching cable TV now. So I think this is just going to be. The starting point for the big boys really diving in heavy to get into these ad placements, and it's just going to get worse as Microsoft's AI starts to integrate with all the various different products from gaming to obviously their computer suite. So end of the era. Well, I'm ready for it. You got to be ready for it. It's just a natural progression of time, I'd say.
I'm going to go to Gnoc, and then we finally got OG on the panel. We've been fighting our way through that one. I want to get OG's take, and then Kohji also raising the hand again. Gnoc, over to you.
Yeah, I was a little tongue in cheek with the first take here, but the real word is obligation. I think if you're looking at a company and trying to understand why they're doing certain things, you should start at the 3 or 4 biggest stock exchanges in the world. If they're on there, then board members and decision makers from that company literally have a legal obligation to do what is in best interest of the shareholders, which is bring in more money to that company. These companies are not laying people off because they are hurting. They're recording record profits over the course of the last few quarters, a lot of them. And the reason for the layoffs is actually about capital optimization. They're trying to increase the PE ratio for their companies so that they look better, so that when quarter end comes, Bobby and his boys and everybody like him gets an additional 10, 15, $20 million payout at the end of the year because their bonuses were met, because all of their targets were met. This is not something that a small studio of 20 people in a private company do. This is something that the Activision Blizzards, or now the Microsoft, the EAs of the world, the soon to be Riot Game world, will do these things because they have an obligation to explore how they can make more money from less money in. This is not new. It's going to continue as long as there are public companies. And this happens in literally every other industry. We're just now at a point where you have a number of significant players in the gaming industry who have released titles that have been around for 10 or 15 years. And they are now being pressured and squeezed to make sure that earnings at the end of each quarter look really good. And the best way to do that is to cut your costs and to find better ways to monetize.
Yeah, I'm glad that you've brought this up along with somebody else. I can't remember who it was, but I I have not run a deca-billion-dollar company, so I will digress there. But I've heard that Game Pass has just been an atrocious failure, where they have been hemorrhaging money left and right for multiple years now, and so it's not surprising to see them try to stretch to make it up in other areas. Shame that it's at the cost of sort of tainting one of their most beloved franchises. I'm going to try to tag in OG. OG, you with us? I know you're still struggling with the audio. What's the word for Call of Duty adding these ads inside of the game?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Not really surprised. I don't know why you called it one of the most beloved franchises. I don't think it's been that for quite some time now. But yeah, I don't
Dude,
know. It doesn't really
scoreboard. Look at the numbers, bro.
it doesn't really surprise me at all. And I think Activision's always been headed there, anyways. So until and unless Call of Duty as an IP gets out of Activision's hands, which it is not really likely to happen in the next 1 or 2 or 3 installments. I think this is just the reality of things. It happened with the Battle Pass. It happened with the skins. Now it's happening with this. Like, not really super surprised. And I think Gnoc mentioned it earlier. Riot's going down the same path with League of Legends. You're seeing it a lot more now, where they just used to be like very happy to give you free skins and rerolls and hex tech chests, and then they said we're going to take them away. And then the community got pissed off, and they're like, okay, maybe we won't take them away. So yeah, to Noc's point, I think it's just what big companies do as they try to grow and make more money. Can you fault them for it? I think you can be upset about it, but I don't think you can really fault them for it. It's like asking someone to just stop making more money. I think you can be upset because they're trying to make the money off of your back, sure, but it's like, okay, just it's the same thing with YouTube ads. Like, just you either subscribe to YouTube Premium or you shut up and watch the ads. It's the same thing.
Asking Activision not to add shitty monetization practices like asking a whale not to swim, dude. Koji, over to you. Then we're moving on.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we just live in a dystopian hellscape. There was a point in time where uh,
Oh my
there was a
God.
point in time where you could take a flight and like there was a bar and a lounge and a second floor where you would just like hang out. And now like they're designing these planes where people have to stand up to be in them. Like this is what we live in now. You can buy a social media company and then buy the election if you want. So like, who gives a fuck? It's like an ad in a game. That's where the straw that broke the camel's back. We're already fucked, guys. We're already fucked.
Just let us play video games and disassociate in peace. That's all I ask. I understand you're going to do the rest of it, but let me click on people's heads in peace over here. All right, guys, we got to move on. Great thread from Kate Irwin. I want to get your guys' sentiment score on this one on single player Web3 games. Okay, Shatterline announced last week that they're moving their focus from online multiplayer to a single player experience. They previously were a single player and a multiplayer experience. And for those of you that don't remember, the game had over 25,000 mostly positive Steam reviews before it was I thought it was acquired. I talked to Jonah. Apparently, it was republished by Faraway, which there's some grayness in there. I understand, but that seems to be coming to an end now. That contract is over, and now they're being republished again by somebody else or something like that. But that's largely irrelevant. Kate Irwin had an amazing post that said, "Quote: Stop making multiplayer crypto games. Stop making crypto battle royales and multiplayer FPS titles. Stop making crypto MMORPGs." Some of this might be out of order, but I'm trying to only say things that actually were in the thread. She said, "Unless you're making them all AI controlled bots or have over $100 million in a plan to market to mainstream gamers and somehow overcome the long-standing NFTs are bad sentiment, you simply will not be able to compete in this market for long. Make single-player games with in-game shops where the trading connects to players. One player lists their sword from their home in Asia, and 12 hours later, another player in NA buys it. GG easy," unquote. Love the ending there. The post has gotten a lot more to it, so I recommend, Lemz, if we can post it up or pin it up for people to read along with us. They referenced some Web2 single-player games with economies and elaborated on some of the challenges of multiplayer games in Web3, such as player liquidity. But again, asking for people's sentiment score on single-player games in Web3. And Kate, I wanted to offer you the floor if you want to clarify anything that I might have messed up there, or a thing that you had to respond to a lot in the thread before we go to people, or if you just want to hear people's opinions based on that, happy to also go around the hands. I'll go to you first, Kate.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, and just before we get started, I just want to say like I mostly play multiplayer games. So it's not like I don't hate multiplayer games. I don't think single player games are the only way forward. And I don't think that all multiplayer games will fail either. So there's a lot of nuance to this, and hopefully folks can understand that, and that not every single take of mine to the nuance is written there. It's such a long post, and I still didn't get everything into it.
That's the brutal reality of Twitter. Basically, everything I write, I delete half of it, and then people are like, "Why didn't you mention this?" I'm like, "Fuck, I did in my head, and I wrote it, and then for the sake of the algo." I think Tony and Kohji both had the hand up first. I'm gonna go to Tony, then we'll go to Kohji.
You know what I'm gonna say, Sam? You know what I'm gonna say, and it's show
I do.
me the money. And I believe that's still true. I think that all of the angst and upsetness and all of the negative feelings that people have around games failing in the space is not like net new, right? Like people have been upset about games failing before crypto existed. There's a whole, if you just Google "I'm upset that I kickstarted something that never existed," there you'll find forums and forums filled with people arguing about whether or not funding a Kickstarter was an investment that they could sue over. Like this is a tale as old as time, right? And I really think that the answer is, yeah, I think single player games might be the answer, but I really think the answer is just like make games that make money. And I work with a lot of different people in the space. I talk to a lot of different people, and I always know I'm in trouble when I'm talking to someone and I say that, and they're like, "Yeah, but that's like really hard." I'm like, "Yeah, man, like you're in a hit driven business. It's in a really crowded space." And so I really think that the first game that really I said this last week too. I think that makes a bunch of money and finds the right way to repatriate that money to its most dedicated players is going to be the one that wins. And whether or not that's a Diablo Torchlight clone where people are playing single player and selling their Sword of a Thousand Truths to each other, or an always online Minecraft thing that looks like whatever they just launched on Roblox, right? Like I think it could take any form. It's really going to be product market fit, what makes money, and the model that involves founders willing to give not some, but a bunch of that money back to the people that are helping them sustain their business.
Man, I wish I could double click on that. I don't know if we have time to get into the weeds, but I would love to sometime, Tony. I've got some thoughts. Kohji, going to you. What's the sentiment score, 1 to 10 here on single player Web3 games?
I mean, my sentiment score is 10 if you can do it. I just don't know how one would do it. And every time Tony says, "Show me the money," I want you to, Tony, next time you yell the next line that Jerry Maguire yells. Anyone who knows the movie will know that he will not do that. But I think that, like, the problem here is right now we view Web3 and Web3 gaming and the use of Web3 in Web3 gaming predominantly as a rewards based system. And it becomes extraordinarily difficult to reward people in single player games without incentivizing over farming, right? Because, like, things like bot control and all this other stuff, like it gets very hard to issue rewards. You can do something like Spelunky or whatever, where you have a high score system, maybe, and then reward the highest scores. But even then, like, what you want to try and do, well, so far in the Web3 economies is like provide scarcity and then, sort of dole out your NFTs or your tokens or whatever based on that scarcity. But like you can't really do that in a single player world, or it's a lot harder to. Whereas if you're pitting players against each other, it's very clear there are going to be a bunch of losers and a few winners, very much like poker or whatever, somewhat of a zero sum scenario where like the rewards are only going to be to the winning few and not the sort of losing population. When you're playing a single player game, it's hard to determine who of those single players are winners and who are losers. And so I'm a 10 if somebody can crack the nut on it, but like I think it's actually much, much, much harder to like 100x to try and get a single player game to fit into Web3.
I know that there was some dispute as well about is what actually defines a single player game, and is this a single player game in Kate's example? If somebody's able to put a weapon on an online marketplace and then purchase it, does that make it? There's some lost nuance in here as well that we could go into the weeds and define a little bit. But I want to go to Michael O'Connor and see how he's seeing this. Michael, what's your sentiment score on single player games potentially working in Web3?
Yeah, you kind of touched on what I was thinking about it. For me, I've always thought about trade as a multiplayer mechanic. So if we have a single player game, but you're trading with like in a vast open marketplace, that those resources are usable inside of the game, whether the gameplay itself beyond the trade is multiplayer or not, I kind of see that as a multiplayer game. I guess it comes down to semantics. But here's where I agree. I agree that, listen, if creating multiplayer games is really hard, and like we speak about Activision a moment ago, like the costs of live service are extreme. There's still not really great infrastructure to support small, medium-sized developers looking to build multiplayer games. Certainly better than it was, but it's not really great. It's expensive and it's tough, and you need a whole additional team alongside your development team as your live ops team. So it's super tough. Alongside that, the whole crypto aspect just creates this whole other complication. It's a sea of complications. So I agree with the sentiment behind, okay, well, how can we simplify this and make it and make it all work? Because there's definitely too many teams who went out there and pitched all of these fucking gigantic MMOs, and but they were like that was always going to be a big ask. So yeah, listen, I think it's cool if people can build, very trade-driven economies, but then they're existing inside of more simple play experiences. I think that's a good call. I think it's tough I think Kohji pointed out that there's going to be some difficulties with that. But from a technical perspective, like I suppose from a design perspective, it's harder, but from a technical perspective, it's easier. Um, so yeah, I suppose like I feel a little bit on the fence, I suppose, about this one. I like the concept of trying to make it as easy as possible to succeed. But I'm not sure exactly if this is the precise solution to that. And the last thing I'll say is there can be many winners, right? There's no one size fits all ingredient for any of this. Someone can make an amazing fucking like purist MMO that can crack through the same way that someone can build something that's way more stripped back that has like a simple shared resource economy.
Great take. Yeah, I can tell that there's so much gray area in here. It's almost difficult to talk about. I want to clear a little bit of it up to maybe make it easier, just on the basis of what Kate mentioned here. So again, multiplayer FPS titles, MMORPGs, battle royales seem to be like the brunt. And she mentioned specifically, unless you have an $100 million budget or more. And I was talking about somebody with this a few days ago where it was like, oh yeah, but off the grid, but Maple Story. And I was like, yeah, but she says like if you have a massive fucking budget, you're playing a different game. Like it's feasible now. I want to go to Justin Gary and then I want to tag in Gnoc.
Yeah, so I think that there's a couple things I want to kind of bring up. One, the tying into the previous conversation around the Call of Duty skins, right? There, as we are working on a very expensive game, which by default is what we're talking about here when you're talking about an MMORPG or an FPS, the requirements to succeed go up. And that means you have to either monetize better, you have to have a bigger audience, you have to do so much more. And crypto gaming obviously has been struggling to build its audience. So I think the argument of saying, hey, how can we scope down and reduce the cost of production, meaning we're going to have a smaller scope game like a single player campaign to encourage people to come in and to make it easier to succeed? Totally reasonable. I think it's just, and if this my score number here is a 10. And the question is, how do you make that function in a Web3 world where the things that make Web3 excellent and exciting on its own, which is the fact that we do have some version of community and the fungibility between our items, and I can sell and own and do all the things I want to do, and cross that boundary and make things exciting and scarce. That's the challenge, right? And we've dealt with this very directly with SolForge Fusion, right? We build a very robust, like algorithmically generated campaign mode, which is the main way we get people to come into the game. It's solo. You could take your own objects, play with them, do whatever you want. But then we also filter up to a competitive play thing where now I have more reason to care and more things that will like kind of get me motivated to go and like care about specific decks and leveling up and all the things. And so I think that there is it's sort of a yes and answer that we classically across the board, all gaming is hard to do. All gaming, especially high quality AAA games in that category, has gotten more expensive over time. So the solutions have to be either, monetize better, find better ways to grow, or reduce scope. And I think single player games are a great way to reduce scope and give people more of a chance to build a great game that supports their community.
Fantastic answer there. I'm going to Gnoc and then to Kevin Lambert. Gnoc, I know you had a lot of thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I think like I largely agree with the sentiment, and I think Kate is somebody who has a history, especially in FPS games. I believe it was Overwatch, right, Kate? But I know that Kate has a history in a lot of these titles, and I think that gives her a unique perspective in the way that she delivered this. I think where I maybe disagree a little bit is around the semantics of what a single player game is. I largely agree with Mike. I think that if you are interacting with other players in an economic environment, you are participating in a multiplayer game. And I think by nature, blockchain is multiplayer. Part of the promise of what you're building on a blockchain is a network of people who have shared incentives and are aligned to achieve certain goals. That's part of the way that this whole thing operates, is because you are working with other people. The idea that like a single player title will have monetization or an economy or all of the things that we historically believe to be important to blockchain titles just does not make sense to me. And if they do have those things, I think that they're just a different version of multiplayer. I don't think that multiplayer means PvP. I don't even think it means cooperation directly with other players. But I think if you're talking about a large economy, it is a multiplayer ecosystem. So for me, I agree with what Kate said. I think if you're a team that is tackling one of those particular genres, you're probably not going to have a whole ton of chances if you don't have the financial firepower to go behind it. We have seen a couple of teams sort of find some success with what I'll call like an MMO light. We've seen teams like Gigaverse and On-Chain Heroes and a variety of others, Cambria, have massively successful seasons by, you know, Web3 terms. Will those games succeed for 5, 10 years? Maybe not, but I think that they still are successful now. So I think it's incredibly challenging if you're not doing something that is a very watered down or light version of what the genre looks like in traditional Web 2 gaming. I don't think you have a whole ton of chances if you aren't a team that has a bank that starts with 8 or that has 8 figures in it minimum. You probably need closer to 9, like Kate mentioned. And I think if you are designing economies in the space, effectively economies can only operate with multi-people cooperation. So this idea that like I'll play a story game and sell an item to Lemz just doesn't make any sense to me. I'd love to be proven wrong, and I would like to see an example of that work in Web3. Just because I disagree today doesn't mean that I'll disagree forever. Omar, I know I'm going to get ahead of it because I know that you're going to mention that. But I don't see it. I agree with Mike. I think player cooperation in any capacity is by definition multiplayer.
I saw Kate put the hand up during that. Kevin, I'm going to put you on ice for just a second and make sure that she's able to speak her piece here, and then we'll go back to you.
Yeah, I think a lot of this kind of starts at the beginning. Like it kind of starts at like you know, why have so many multiplayer Web3 games failed? Why do so many multiplayer Web3 games have bots? Like, and I think the answer to like a lot of it is there's just not enough players. There's literally just not enough players for all these multiplayer games that rely on multiplayer existence in order to exist. I literally cannot play a lot of these games unless there are 10 other people clicking play at the exact same time. I am located on the west coast of the US. If all the other players are in Asia and it's like a game that requires low ping, then, you know, we're not even going to get matched in the same server. And if they put everyone on the same server, somebody's going to be at a huge disadvantage because they have like 400 MS. So I think there's also that as well. Like yes, we can argue about the definition of single player versus multiplayer, but I think like games like Animal Crossing, it's multiplayer optional. You don't have to like go to someone else's island to like buy their stuff. You can just completely play the game alone. You don't need to like wait for a queue time. You don't need to wait for other people to decide to play the game. And I think that's really cool. And I hope that we see more of it because I think it's sustainable. It's a lower lift. Like a lot of these smaller teams in Web3, like building an economy is so much work with crypto, even more than just a regular Web 2 version of the game. So I think there's so much room for like really cool single player experiences that maybe have like multiplayer as an option. And I know like the Bear Baddies are doing a dress up game. So I'm excited to see that. That's like something that's not really per se a multiplayer or a single player game, but there's just like new experiences that aren't fitting into those existing boxes of like trying to compete with WoW, trying to compete with Call of Duty. And there are a few exceptions to like that budget piece. Like I think Pixels has somehow managed to defy the statistics and like stay around, even though all these other multiplayer games are shutting down like, you know, half a dozen last month alone. It's interesting to see.
Great additional context there. Let's go over to Kevin now, and then I'm going to tag in the Tatted Lawyer.
So it's interesting in the context of Web3, right? Why are we building here? What are we doing? We're playing around with the experience of ownership and all of the digital property ownership and ownership of pieces of products and games and ecosystems themselves, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be building here, right? That's what blockchain, at least from my perspective, that's why we're building on blockchain and not in a database. And so, ownership is interesting because it has different reflections in different kinds of products. In a single player game, like hard single player, like literally there's zero connective tissue to another real human in the game and even in the larger ecosystem, ownership has very little value. Right? Like you need a social or an economic unlock of some kind. You need social surface area to flex your things. It's like, how exciting would it be? Is it to own even your physical things if no one in the world could ever see them? Right? There's definitely some joy to yourself for having things and recallable memories. And like, if it wasn't good, then people wouldn't like, collecting things in The Sims. So I do think there's still a reflection in single player games for ownership, but it's vastly diminished relative to having social surface area of those things. That doesn't mean you have to make a battle royale or an FPS. It just means there has to be some social surface area for being able to have that. And it could even live outside of the game itself. It could just be like, yeah, I take my binder of cards to the local shop and show everybody what I've collected. That's social surface area enough. And it's not innate to the game, right? So, I think Kate has a point about like, dude, the kinds of games in Web3 that have been thrown out and are failing is definitely a valid observation. I think they're failing for other reasons, though. It's not just because they're battle royales and FPS and everybody's doing them. I mean, heck, we're building another freaking card game, so what does that say about that? But I think that I think it's largely a motivations problem. People building things for the wrong reasons and not showcasing the experience of ownership in the right way. That's why those games have failed. Although also because they don't have tons of players. But I think like if there's a suggestion that single player Web3 games are the panacea to the problems, I am dubious about that. I want to see that explored, but I would be worried without some kind of social surface area for the ownership and for the experience of ownership. I don't know that it would resonate as well as Web 2 games do.
Good stuff, Kevin. Let's go to Tatted, then OG. Hit me with the all caps. Tag me in, coach. So I'm eagerly anticipating that one.
Yeah. So, without further ado, before OG, I really do. My sentiment score is super, super high. I'm going to give it a 10. And the reason I'm going to give it a 10, and I've heard a lot of other people, and I agree very, very heavily with Kate on a lot of the points that she made. But if you look at Pokemon Red and Blue version from 1998, uh, if you think about it, that was a single player experience. Like, yes, could I then battle against my friends? Of course. But if my friend had a Pokemon that I can't find in Pokemon Blue, and he had Pokemon Red, for example, I'm going to trade with him based off the Pokemon that he found so that I can have that Pokemon in my game and I can then continue going through the gyms, progressing towards the end of the game. So I think a huge problem here is with the single player experience, there's not enough content. And what I mean by content, I mean like randomized content that you can find through the game. And I can only speak personally with the games that we're building, but like with Swarms, we've tried to make this single player experience where the weapons are so different, where all these weapons and armor, etc., can all be leveled up. Meaning, with your single player experience, you need to find these bigger, badder, and better weapons to then make it through like the additional maps that are coming up. Just like you did in Pokemon, you needed to level up your Pokemon and have certain levels to beat the third gym leader, the fourth, etc. And so I think if the single player title is created in a way that you actually need various different items, weapons, armor, etc., like depending on whatever the game type is, to actually progress through that single player game, then an economy like this can work. Because if I'm finding different items in my single player run than you're finding in your single player run, then why can't we create a marketplace economy where I can trade items back and forth? Like maybe I have this item that you need, you have this item that I need, but we're never ever going to play in the same server, same instance, etc. And I think if we start to approach games that way, single player can work extremely well. And then I do believe any kind of single player like that that adds in the advent of co-op play will just essentially pour gasoline all over this. But even without the co-op, I do think this is a very, very viable game model, and it's something that I do think can catch on really, really well. Because if I found, level 5 sword in this game, and you have a level 30 sword that I want, we could easily do a trade in the peer-to-peer marketplace. That's sweet. Now I have the sword. I'm going to go back to my own single-player save and go use this new sword that I traded with Kohji to then go dominate all these mobs in this single-player experience. So I personally think it can work really, really well. I do think it'll solve the issue of long queue times, bots in game, etc. And I do think it's something that should be explored a lot more, because I am personally tired of the shooter genre dominating Web3 games, and I do think we need a switch, because shooters are the hardest mind share, market share to break into when you're a new shooter versus any of the legacy titles like the Call of Duties and what we've spoken about before. But that's my take on it.
I love the comp to Pokemon here. Feels really, really true to sort of the thing that I think she was trying to highlight. And Kate, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the idea that like it's an experience enhancer. And I remember having this experience of like I went to a Taekwondo tournament and somebody traded me the like Gengar that I needed to evolve into the and I was like. I went home and I literally was like walking on sunshine for the next like 4 days. I was like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. And I hope that more people can have that kind of experience with, blockchain. Gnoc gives me the thumbs down. Fuck you, Gnoc. I'm going to OG.
How much did you pay for that Pokemon though? How much did you buy that off that guy for?
I traded him half of my Capri Sun.
Uh-huh. I mean, that's probably why this shit doesn't work though, right? Like, unless it's additional like levels or something for the game, like who people like either people are gonna like farm the shit out of it or it's just not gonna work. I think that's the hardest part about all of it. Like I want it to be true, but we just as highlighted earlier, we live in a dystopian hellscape and there's not enough altruists out there.
People love collecting stuff that's just theirs. Like The Sims is absolutely massive. Like I know it's not really a game that guys play, but like it's a massive series that there's entire like people literally make blogs about their Sims. They track them over like 8 generations. There's all these like unofficial third-party mod sites. You download like these insane mods that like make your Sims do all kinds of stuff. Like there's so much like custom content that I think like single player brings in as well. If you want to like mod your game, like the mod space is massive for single
That I
player
agree with.
games.
I agree completely that mods are probably the best players for single player monetization.
I played the shit out of The Sims. I'll leave it there. OG, over to you.
Oh, I love that.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and Gnoc, welcome to my TED Talk.
Oh no.
We're back here again. Listen, we need to unpack a couple of things, so I'm gonna try to run through this as fast as possible. I think the first thing to unpack is definitions, and two things here. I don't think a single player game with an online marketplace does not make the core game loop any less single player, right? So if the game is designed to be experienced by a solo player, but there's an external online marketplace thing going on, I don't think that actually makes it a multiplayer game, even though you might treat the multiplayer as like, oh, it's a different game because I'm trading, supply, demand, etc. But just to touch on that point, the second definition, I think, which I think we tend to forget, is what is a Web3 game. And I think everyone's looking at it as like a game that has a token, a game that has NFTs, a game that has to have a price go up or down. It has to have a chart on CoinGecko. I don't think people are also viewing it from the lens of, oh, it's a game that uses the blockchain tech in any way, shape, or form, meaning achievements, right? You could have soul-bound achievements in your game, and that would still make it a Web3 game. It wouldn't make you any less of a Web3 game, even though there's no chart to trade. Maybe there's nothing to, try and be a degen with. But I don't think that makes you any less of a Web3 game. So just getting those out of the way first. The second thing we need to talk about, I think, is the reason why we need single player games. And I do agree with Kate's point, but the reason I always talk about single player games, and I argue with Gnoc like 3 times a week, is I think the purpose of having single player games in the space is to elevate the quality of the games in the space. I couldn't care less if the single player game ends up being the best game of all time or sells millions of copies or has a token that goes to the moon. Like, for me, it's actually just the bar being elevated just a little bit higher. Because right now, the issue that we have is, because everyone's trying to build a multiplayer game and they're trying to make sure there's, latency and live service and this and that, everyone forgets about sound design. There's no lore, there's no narrative, there's no cohesiveness to the game. And I think when you do single player games, that gets basically under the lens a lot more, because it becomes all about your story, your voice actors, your script, the way you design the game environment. It's way less about how quick is the time to kill in this game, or how easy is it to have fun with your friends, and it's a lot more about the actual core game loop. So for me, it's actually just setting the bar a little bit higher, because I think when we get a single player game in this space, everyone looking around is going to start. I mean, this is what we saw between 2021 and today in 2025, right? Like, a lot of the shit we accepted back in the day, we accepted because there was nothing better, and everyone just used to say, oh, it's pretty good for a Web3 game.
TED Talk accepted. That was pretty good. I want to go to Tony Valkersel here, who I know has some juice. He also is the proud owner of every single Marvel Rivals skin, which I don't even want to do the math on. I'd be embarrassed.
I mean, I am embarrassed. I told you that in confidence, and now everyone knows. Everyone knows that I'm a hoarder. I'm a digital hoarder. No, I think that what I was going to say has been trodden, and I was just going to say that Gnoc had a bad take. I'm glad I get to say that now. But for all the reasons that everyone just said, Gnoc had a bad take. He had a bad take. Just because you can sell shit to people doesn't necessarily make it a multiplayer game. Tatted Lawyer's Pokemon example I think was my favorite, but yeah, and also show me the money.
Show him the money. Gnoc, you've been working that thumbs down button to the point that I'm afraid you have carpal tunnel. Go cook us, bro.
Okay, no, I'll preface this by saying I actually agree with a lot of what was just mentioned by Tatted, Omar, and Kate. I think Pokemon is a terrible fucking example, because literally the theme song, though, of Pokemon is what? You have to do what in Pokemon? Catch them all? You literally cannot do that without another player. You have to participate in a multiplayer experience in order to complete the main objective of Pokemon. Even as far back in Gen 1, there are no less than 5 different instances where you are required to interact with another player in order to achieve the actual main goal of the game. So I think Pokemon is a terrible example. All of that said, I do agree with a lot of what was said, right? There is a lot that can be done with single player games. I mostly nowadays play, with the exception of RuneScape, basically only single player games. I've been, like I said a couple of weeks ago, I've been working through the 4 to 5 hour range on Game Pass, playing everything that I can, and I'm having a ton of fun with these games. And I agree that things like ownership or collectibles with in-game experiences matter. I played a ton of Sins. I played a bunch of what the fuck is the city building game, Cityscape or whatever it's called. I like collecting these achievements, and I think that this is an important part of like your game experience. I can agree with that. I have absolutely no pushback. None of that needs blockchain to operate, and I think that that is like the crux of this issue for me is when you're building in blockchain, you're building because the nature of blockchain allows for things like interoperability, it allows for things like proper ownership of assets, it allows with interacting with other players. And part of the reason why so many teams, MSU is a great example of this, came to Web3 to begin with, is because they believed that some of the technology here that exists in this space would allow them to alleviate issues that they encountered with their Web2 economies. In other words, they came here to do something that they didn't believe they could do in traditional Web2 tech. None of the things that were outlined from a single player perspective requires blockchain to operate. All of that operates as is today. The idea that games fail because they are multiplayer, I think, is insane because plenty of games fail, significantly more games fail in Web 2 that are single player. And games are fucking hard to build. Games will fail. The overwhelming majority of any game that is ever built is going to fail. Players is always the answer, whether you're building a single player title or a multiplayer title. The lack of players, i.e., people who are willing to spend and play time and spend time and money in that game will always be the reason a title fails, regardless of whether or not you're building a multiplayer title. So I agree. Everything that was mentioned about single player games, wholeheartedly agree. I think it makes a ton of sense. I like these things. I like collecting. I like achievements. I like all of that. None of that needs Web3 to exist. I don't know why you would add an additional layer of complexity to something that is already so difficult to do. When you're building a game, all of the odds are stacked against you. If you're building a single player title, to come to Web3, add a layer of difficulty to everything that you're doing, effectively having to have two different skill sets within the team that you're building to create the same thing that already works and functions so well in Web 2. Every fucking example was a Web 2 title. Why would you do that to yourself? It makes it harder. If anything, what we're trying to do, and the way that I took it was the spirit of the message is this: don't do things that are effectively stacking the deck against you. And to me, coming to Web3, building a game that already works perfectly fine, we have a dozen examples of in traditional Web2 gaming, and then adding an additional layer or two of complexity and having to deal with the stigma of building a Web3 title doesn't make any sense to me. I think that's the opposite of making your life easier.
I saw Kate Irwin put the hand back up. I'm gonna cut the line for her, and then I'm going to Michael Christine, who is also slamming that thumbs down with a rebuttal, I'm sure. Kate, over to you.
I just think what was said could be applied to multiplayer too. I really do. Like a couple years ago, around the 2022 era of crypto gaming, a lot of people were talking about ownership, and I know like the conversation on ownership has come up already a couple times during this space. But I think like ownership is really subjective. And it's largely an illusion in a lot of these games because initially, back in the day of 2022, we're all like interoperability, ownership, and like sort of like really like putting that on blast as like the reasons why people should care about crypto games. And I think it's a lot more complicated. And I think like the definition of true ownership is a lot more complicated than people want to admit. Like if a game studio made a game, made assets for the game, and then is letting you hold them in your wallet, and then they shut down the game, like I don't know, is that really ownership? Other games like Off the Grid, you can only trade the items on their marketplace. You can't trade them on OpenSea. I think I just saw something about that where like there's no like buy or sell button on OpenSea. So like, is that true ownership? Not really. I mean, you can argue whatever you want about that, but I think like the ownership conversation is also a whole other can of worms of like, what does that even mean? Is it even ownership? Like, you could also argue that, like, yeah, me downloading my Sims mods, like, I have those on my computer and like I have a ripped version of The Sims. So it's also about like the game itself, too. And the ownership conversation is really complicated, and interoperability has never been achieved, really, in any crypto game ecosystem because it involves like capitalism sort of getting in the way and like all these games have to partner with each other, and then you have to like port the Street Fighter skins into Overwatch, and like that involves, you know, them participating, and so like interoperability is also like a mess, but and like hasn't been achieved. So I think like those two pieces are also worth unpacking a bit.
120 episodes of Gamified. We're all just so we could get Kate Irwin live on air to admit that she has a cracked version of The Sims on her computer. Get her, feds. Thanks, Kate. I want to give a shout out to Dave Schick in the comments. He says, can't listen to this one. Celebrating my 20th wedding anniversary today. Though someone please reproduce the spicy take from Kohji that he knows is coming. I wanted to give him a shout out. Dave, I'm sure you'll listen to the or to the audio on demand on Spotify or whatever. Huge shout out. Thanks for being such a fan of the show. Congrats, 20 years is insane. Back on topic, though, I'm going to the Tatted Lawyer, then I'm tagging in OG, and then the Little Lizard Legend. Then we're going to move on from this.
Yeah, I just wanted to actually bring up 2 points here. Gnoc had asked the question, you know, why are you including blockchain in this at all? This could easily live on the server. I can actually explain this from a legal perspective. One of the reasons that blockchain is so important for peer-to-peer trade is that you as the company now don't have any control over that trade, meaning you can't reverse it. I can't go into your wallet and take that item out of it. Like that actually is a huge, huge, huge legal defense to the idea that you're facilitating the trade of these financial assets or quote unquote potential financial assets, because there's no like clear law on this. And this is actually why so many games you see in their terms of service say you're not allowed to trade this or trade that or trade this for money. That's the reason, because there's not really any clear law one way or the other, or the law is very, very, very open to interpretation, if you will, as to if it is or if it's not. So the blockchain are putting this on the blockchain and taking that control out of the actual service provider, being the game developer themselves, actually is a layer of legal protection to any of those claims or allegations that could be thrown at you. And then the second thing I wanted to say here is we need to kind of look at the gaming space in 2025 versus any other year before, because I personally think games are pushed so heavily by content creators and streamers who stream their live gameplay so much that even if a game is a single player game, it's still somewhat of a community, because I can be playing my single player game, but have a whole community watching me play. Or, for example, I could be watching Knoc's stream of a single player game, see that he has a really, really cool item that's awesome that I want in my single player game. And if there's a marketplace to then go trade for that item, I'm going to go to the marketplace to trade for that item. So I think the onset of streaming being combined with gaming, and the idea that so many people like a single player experience can be so much more than just you individually experiencing this. I think it makes total sense to have a marketplace being able to trade peer to peer with other players, even if, again, you never ever play in the same instance or in the same actual game together. So just wanted to bring that point to the table as well.
Love it. OG, then Lemz.
That's why we have a lawyer on the panel, Gnoc, so he can tell you why legally the blockchain is good for single player game. Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I think basically what Kate said, you can apply the same logic to pretty much every single Web3 game, whether it's multiplayer or not. Like the question, why Web3? I don't think one team in all of Web3 necessarily has the best answer or the right answer for. You can always argue for or against. You can always say, hey, you're making your life a lot harder by doing, parallel in Web3, or you're making your life harder by doing Sparkball in Web3, or doing whatever it is in Web3. But my point is, we've tried multiplayer so many times. It hasn't worked yet. We've never tried single player. It's not to say that single player is the way to go. It's saying that we should explore having single player games for multiple reasons. And I think to your point about, why do this if you can already do it in Web 2 without the complications, you can't do certain things as well. If you look at a game like Red Dead Redemption, I play it on my PlayStation 4, for example, and then it's in my PSN, I've got the trophies, it's platinum, whatever. If I go to Steam, let's say, that means nothing, right? Because the two systems don't recognize each other. There's no one cohesive, quote unquote, cross-platform integration that says, hey, this person is like cracked, he's finished this game in this many hours, you should probably give him early access to that game. And I think there are doors that we can start opening once you actually look at Web3 as like blockchain integration, not as a fungible token or a non-fungible token or something that has to be trading on, XYZ exchange. And then to the last point, which was show me the money, it's a question of greed, to be completely honest, because you look at games like Red Dead Redemption and they've sold 70 million copies. You look at even more recent games like Black Myth Wukong, they've sold 30 million copies. The Sims was mentioned earlier, and they've got like a stupid number. I think Sims 4 alone is at like 30 or 40 million copies. None of the games in Web3 have sold a fraction of these numbers. And you're talking about single player, like pick it up once, play it for 60 to 80 hours, drop it, never play it again. Like I finished Black Myth Wukong in 80 hours, got my platinum trophy, deleted the game, never played it again, couldn't care less if new updates or whatever comes out. And I think that's the way it's meant to be experienced. I don't think you have to just keep milking a game. Red Dead Redemption 2 has made more money than any of the Call of Duty titles if you look at them on a single game by game basis. So any Call of Duty, regardless of if it's Modern Warfare 2, if it's the new stuff, if it's Warzone, Red Dead Redemption, a single player game that ends in arguably, I don't know what, 100 hours tops, has sold more copies. So it's a question of greed. Like, how much money do you want to see? Is 70 million copies not good enough for you to say, hey, maybe this is a good sustainable business model and I should make a single player game?
My friend, those games that you just mentioned took 8+ years to make,
Those are
and
all
Web3
$100
gaming,
million titles, every one of them.
and Web3 gaming has not been inevitable for close to that long. So I think that like we have to put some things into perspective. Like, yeah, it's possible. Maybe in the next like 10, 15 years, we'll see the Black Myth Wukong of Web3, but like it's not gonna happen not even next year or the year after that. So I think we like there's some patience required.
I think we did see one. I want to use the word meaningful, probably not meaningful stab at single player in Web3. It was the Souls like. I can't even remember what it's called anymore. But somebody tried to make a Souls like here. Michael O'Connor, I see your hand up as well. I want to make sure we squeeze you in here. Over to you, brother.
Yeah, I just think it's also just like, let's not shit the bed here. We're in kind of like the first phase of funding in, like, this is a nascent industry. And yeah, like there was a crazy over allocation of capital into some bizarre projects with like people who've never built games before. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but it increases risk. And as per the games industry, we're currently seeing a like a waft of loads of closed projects, and that's a bummer. Okay, but let's not just say, okay, it's all like the whole thing's fucked here. It's way too early to do that, in my opinion. I think that there's still huge amounts of possibility. There's still huge amounts of well capitalized games coming through. Some great games as well. Like like, I think if you if the Eve what's the Eve Online game called? Is it Eve Frontier or something like
Frontier,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, so like that would be the point. If those guys who have literally built out like a ton of incredibly good multiplayer systems before, who've got like the total credibility to be able to jump into an industry like this, who seemingly understand it quite well, if those guys were able to come in and not build, especially how well capitalized they are, and they weren't able to pull it off, that might be the point where I'd be like, oh shit, here, guys, we might need to start rethinking this a little bit here because, we've had 6, 7 years at it now. We're not seeing a breakthrough, and we've had these amazing capitalized teams who've delivered across all these other industries. But like, we're not there yet. We're just not there yet. And actually, we're seeing reasonable amounts of success, not as much as what we expected because we work in crypto and everything is expected just to moon immediately, and players are going to moon immediately. But this takes time. Like games take time to build, and technological innovation takes time to build as well. So I think I think it's just a little bit too early to say that like things are fucked. I still remain very hopeful. I think there's a lot of clever people building a lot of cool things.
I absolutely love that take, Michael, and I think it speaks to something underlying, which is I'm super bullish on like Avalon, for instance, because they haven't pivoted 17 times to my knowledge. There's a chance in the background that they've pivoted a bunch, but from what I can tell, they started out making the product that they are still building, and there's something to be said about that of like not chasing the 74 things that we thought were good ideas. Like maybe just have some vision and like stick to that vision over a long period of time, and then find out whenever the chickens come home to roost or whatever that idiom is. Gnoc, I'm going to you, and then Lemz, and then the Tatted, dude. The hands are flying, dude. Gnoc, over to you.
All right, I'll say this. Omar, Tatted, Kate, you're starting to win me over here a little bit. I think that there have been some good arguments. I can't leave you on a positive note, so I have to shit on a couple of things that were said. That's just me. One of the things that we started with this topic was if you don't have $100 million, go home. And then literally the only example of single player games that we used were $100 million titles. So maybe if you don't have 100 mil, don't build a single player game either. The other thing that I wanted to say was literally every example, with the exception of what Tatted just mentioned about some of the legality of it, and I think both Caden and Omar sort of alluded to this idea of forever achievements, this player profile that you can bring from profile to profile. I like that. I think we've talked about how things like Xbox and Steam and PSN are incentivized to not work together and to not share incentives because it creates this sunk cost fallacy of time and effort that you've put within their ecosystem. It's one of the ways that they use to retain you. I think if you own that, and that's something that you can move from on chain to, from one place to another on chain, I think that's incredible. I think that that's absolutely a way that you can leverage single player games to showcase a player's holistic approach to gaming. Um, I will also just mention, and I'll leave you with this: every example that you gave about an incredible single player game was look at this game, and then you do this with another person. That's multiplayer.
Juicy. Juicy. Lemz, I'm going to you, then Tatty gets the last word, and I'm cutting you off like a bunch of drunks at a bar. Jesus.
Yeah, this one has run long. I loved Michael's take though, because that was something I wanted to mention. Of hey, we might not have figured it out yet, but it is this brand new industry. Like, keep trying. Sure, some of this shit won't work. It'll be a total flop, but that's how we learn and the whole space moves forward. And then someone might actually crack the code. And as a big single player lover, I hope someone figures out some interesting things that we can do. The achievements and stuff is neat, but I hope we can figure out some other neat ways to have blockchain integration. But I think like back to like Kate's original point, the big highlighted problems from my perspective were all around synchronous multiplayer, right? Like having the player liquidity, which we know is a rough thing in Web3 to have enough people to get into these games, and trying to matchmake servers, ping, all that sort of stuff. And I actually want to see more games like what Fableborn have done. And I know it's like down to a game design perspective, not every game will work like this, but like I feel like there's just a massive hole for games like that, which they are easier with the cold start problem because you can manage with less players. Like they have a whole single player campaign mode you can play, but then they also have asynchronous multiplayer where you're battling other people's bases, but you're not playing against them live. So you don't need to be online at the exact same time as them. And I feel like that's like a very underexplored area, especially in Web3, and more multiplayer games like that, like feels like it's a good fit. And I want to see more of that. So build more asynchronous multiplayer games, please.
OG is calling Gnoc, is saying he's pulling the straw man card in the Wolves and Friends chat here. He says Hollow Knight, Hades, and many, many more examples. I threw in Slay the Spire as well. I'm going to Michael Christine, and then for real though, you're done. All of you.
Yeah, I literally just wanted to make one last point because I keep hearing there's not been any successful Web3 or on-chain game. Nightcrows has like almost 10 million downloads and they made $200 million of revenue last year. Just wanted to throw that out there before we move on.
Man, I hate Night Crows so much, but you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I just fucking hated playing that game, but you're not wrong. You know what I don't hate playing is stuff on Avalanche. Avalanche is the king of gaming chains, the official official chain of GameFi. London was an epic summit to find out exactly how they're conquering the cold with cutting-edge technology from AI to RWAs and, of course, gaming. And they're a community that's as frosty as it is fierce. So bundle up, bring your A game, and craft your very own L1 to service all your blockchain gaming needs. And giddy up, gamers, get ready to gallop into Game 7 Nation. They've already signed 150 games, 30 million wallets, and they're ready to rumble with their mega MetaMask partnership. Come join the digital nation and get your citizenship so you can level up your life. Thanks to Game 7 for being the official infrastructure of Gamified. Dump Date Mary. We got a little bit of a fun one, and we're towards the end of the panel here. Elden Ring is going to be made into a movie. Clash of Clans getting a Netflix animated series, and Clair Obscur, the turn-based RPG that's been taking over from Ubisoft, is getting a live-action movie. Which one you dumping? Which one you dating? And which one you marrying? Kohji, I got to go to the cinephile first.
The only answer is I don't care about the rest of them. Marry the Elden Ring movie. Alex Garland is the fucking man. Everything this guy touches, even the divisive ones, are amazing. Like, people liked Ex Machina. So there's that. Watch devs if you haven't seen devs. Like that's an example of some good shit. But even like the crazy ones that are on the fence, like Men, he's like throwing for the fences swinging for the fences, excuse me, every single time. And I think this movie is going to be that in spades. Like if you ask me what the story of Elden Ring was, I'm like, I don't even really know, and I don't even really care. The game was sick, so he can kind of just like, carte blanche, do whatever the fuck he wants, just like some sort of weird eldritch medieval horror thing, and it's going to be great. The rest of them, I'm a little bit dubious on, but if they can attach some real artists to it, then maybe I'll change my tune. So I don't know. I'll marry. I mean, I'll marry Elden Ring. I'll dump Clash of Clans, and I'll date the other one. I don't even remember what the other one was.
Clair Obscur, or Expedition 33 is how it's known better. Clash of Clans, I think, is going to have some real Minecraft vibes, if I had to guess, based on the success of that movie. It's about to cross a
Yo,
billion.
if they can chicken jockey the theater, then I'm back in on it, man. I like that. I watched Minecraft, and it was the most mind numbing bullshit I've ever seen. But the kids in the movie theater were so excited about it that I was like, "Fuck yes, movies are back."
Let's go, dude. I want to hear from Wills. Then we're tagging to Kevin.
I'm gonna take the Clash of Clans movie out the back and shoot it, and then I'm gonna saunter into my wedding with Elden Ring. I don't even I haven't played Clair Obscur yet. I don't know much about the story, so but it's French, so I'll assume it's got some air of fine themes and larger ideas to it, which I'm sure would be fun to date for a little bit. But yeah, that's my ranking.
Great takes. Yeah, if anybody has played Clash of Clans, that means you've heard Hog Rider, which is the most annoying voice maybe in the history of video games, which makes me just not want to be anywhere near an entire 8-hour TV series of it. Kevin Lambert, over to you.
Ooh, I'm gonna have a hot take on this one. Koji's probably right about the skill of the director of the Elden Ring movie, but I'm still gonna hot take it. So I would dump Elden Ring because I've already died 100 times in that world, and I'm not about to suffer through 2 more hours of emotional damage on the big screen. um, I'll date Clash of Clans. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a romp. But definitely not marriage material. I'll hang out for the laughs though, and I'll marry the Clair Obscur movie. It's gonna be deep, poetic. The game is awesome. The story is great, and I'm really excited. Hopefully, they have a good skilled director for it. But the story is already one of the best, most memorable things about it. So I could see that translating pretty well to the big screen. I had a tough time choosing between Elden Ring and that, though, to be honest with you. But I had to fill out each one. So I'm going to marry Expedition 33.
Dude, I love it. Yeah, I had somebody tell me, one of my good friends was like, dude, I played through the tutorial of Expedition 33 and I was ready to like run through a fucking wall. Like all I wanted to do was kill that boss, which I've not played, so I have to live vicariously through them. Michael O'Connor, then to OG.
And yeah, I can't like honestly, Alex Garland, everything he touches is gold. So like he was the guy who wrote Beach as a novel, which was then that was his kind of breakout. Um, but I liked his last as well, which is Civil War. I don't know if anyone saw that. It was kind of an interesting, kind of like dystopian photography kind of based film. Um, so yeah, that's that was Elden Ring. Yeah, so we're gonna marry there. I guess I don't really know anything about this. What's the camera obscure Clair Obscur? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. For some reason, that has two names, like all Ubisoft bullshit. But yeah, it's 3 million copies sold. Turn-based RPG that's got a parry mechanic and apparently an amazing story.
Okay, cool. So I don't know what the hell that is, but that sounds interesting. And as a result, I will date it because I want to remain like just open-minded about shit in general. Um, and then I'm going at the back also with a couple of with a couple of folks here, and we're going to shoot that whatever that bullshit they're going to make for Clash of Clans is.
All right, Tatted.
Hold on. I don't want to actually Michael there, but his last film was a movie called Warfare, which you should also watch.
I don't want to
Oh,
actually
nice.
in, but well, sorry, Michael. Go ahead.
No, oh, good. I'm on that.
Tatted.
Yeah, so for this one, gotta go with Elden Ring. Marry Elden Ring just because Alex Garland is a genius. I actually just had my wife watch Ex Machina last week because all this AI stuff that's going on, and I was like, baby, this is what's happening right now. So yeah, everything he touches turns to gold. So marry that. Gonna date Expedition 33, Clair Obscur. I think that can be such a beautifully done movie, and I'm absolutely gonna take Clash of Clans and shoot it in the back with everybody else. And not because I agree with you all, just because I think live action TV shows for games generally tend to do pretty poorly outside of I guess Last of Us more so season 1 than season 2. So I am pretty bearish on like the TV show version of these games. So I'm gonna take that one out back and never speak of it again.
Yeah, shout out to Twisted Metal, one of the biggest wastes of time I've ever dedicated to something video game related. Also, with all the Alex Garland love, whenever I was in Toronto with Kohji, knowing the movie fanatic that he was, I said, Kohji, let's play a game. You get to get a sequel of any movie ever, and it's guaranteed to actually be good. And I forget what his answer was because I'm self-centered, but my answer was Ex Machina because it's perfectly, it's there for the taking. The sequel's like perfectly lobbed up in the air for them to do. OG.
Westworld, bro. Westworld.
Yeah, I'm not gonna jump the bandwagon, and unless the Elden Ring movie is gonna have a real depiction of how the experience is, which is basically you rolling and dodging over and over, I don't think it's gonna be representative of the real Elden Ring experience. So I'll probably I'll date Elden Ring. I'm kind of surprised none of you know the plot line or the story or have even tried Clair Obscur. It's a really good. I mean, I guess yeah. This goes back to the single player versus multiplayer thing. You guys are just absolute multiplayer nerds. But Clair Obscur has a really good story. Spoiler free version is basically there's this paintress that paints a number, and the number keeps going down. And if your age is that number or above, you basically disappear. And then they send out like an expedition, quote unquote, to kill the paintress. And this expedition that you're playing in is number 33. So that's why it's Clair Obscur Expedition 33. But yeah, I think it's a really cool story. So I'd marry that because I think they can probably make a really sick version of it. And then, yeah, Clash of Clans, I can't even be bothered, to be honest. So definitely kill that.
Damn, everybody is icing one of the most beloved mobile franchises, Supercell. It's a Supercell game. Knock over to you.
It needs to stay that way.
All right. Yes, Alex Garland, fucking incredible. Everything that he's ever done is amazing. I'm a huge 28 like series fan. So the fact that we're getting 2 coming in the next couple years, super exciting. But Elden Ring, I played it. I've even played a little bit of Night Rain. I don't even know what the fuck it's about, and I've put 100 hours into the game. I would not like that movie. It's the type of movie that would win awards. It would be nominated for Oscars, and I would never understand what the fuck it is. So we're dumping it. I don't want to deal with it. It's gone. Sorry, Alex. Clair Obscur obviously is the Mary here. It is a basic, easy to understand story. Lady who paints is bad. We need to kill that lady so people stop dying. It makes perfect sense. The game is fucking incredible. The music in that game, like I listen to the soundtrack just like while I'm working. It's incredible. Would be an awesome movie. And I'm stupid enough to understand that I can understand a straightforward story like that. So definitely marrying that. And of course, we're gonna date the fucking Clash. Ken Jeong as Chicken? What are we talking about? That would be fucking hilarious. Of course, I want Ken Jeong as Chicken and Chris Hemsworth as the Barbarian King. It's not going to be a good movie, but to Koji's point, the theater's going to be chaos. There's going to be fucking popcorn flying everywhere. That's going to be a lot of fun.
I like it. I like the divergence there, Knock. I appreciate you. Kohji with the hand back up.
Yeah. For the record, I've started Clair Obscur, and I do think it's pretty great, but I think it has the same, we'll say, problem that Last of Us has, which is like, it's cool, but the video game already did it. Like, it's so story driven that I don't need a retelling of the same story in a different format. The reason I like Elden Ring is because it's like, I don't know what the fuck the story is, so give me an actual story that I can latch onto.
The one thing that would be sick is Elden Ring in 4D. Everybody just walks out of there with a fucking concussion.
From all the rolling?
From all the rolling.
From all the rolling. All right, we're going to squeeze one more in. We got the final boss topic of the day, game prices in 10 years. We've grown accustomed to quote unquote launch prices for new games But is one size fits all really the best thing here? We've diverged more and more from that. I'm seeing I paid $70 for Doom on Steam actually, and I played it this weekend. Got like an hour into it. I was bored out of my fucking mind. I guess I'm too old for single player experiences. I don't know what it is. I want to like it super bad. I know Clair Obscur Expedition 33 was $40, I believe. We've heard Mario Kart's going to be $80. GTA 6 might have a $100 price tag. We've heard. Is this the new standard where everyone will kind of set their own price here, or are we going to see something go even beyond this, where somebody, maybe GTA comes out, sets the price at a AAA game is $100, and everybody climbs in the barrel because that's the new highest price, the ceiling, if you will, of what they can charge. Fallout creator says people don't want 100-hour games anymore. They are a waste of money and resources, according to him. Most people won't complete the game and see the value in all the money you spent building it, so build shorter games that cost less money. So the question again, what is the final form that we'll see of game pricing 10 years from now? What do we expect this to turn into? Wow, lots of hands whenever I look down at the phone again. I'm going to Tony V, then we're tagging in Big Spang.
Yeah, I think we're going to see the further division of pricing between small bite-sized experiences that are going to be largely free to play or dollars to play, and these monolithic large budget things that are going to frankly cost more than than what a large budget thing looks like now. I think a big part of the dynamic, I don't think a big part of the dynamic that exists in the industry is that, like, for a lot of games, it's like just as hard to make like an okay JRPG as it is to make a good JRPG, right? In terms of like the cost associated with engineers and art, and right, and as the tools that we're all working with, that you're helping pioneer Sam over at the Farcade, become more and more accessible to a broader set of people. The indie games cost $10 to $15 for a reason. It's because you can or $20 for a reason, where you make them with two people. As it requires fewer and fewer people to make like okay experiences, those okay experiences are just not going to command a premium price, and the things that are awesome experiences are going to command a more premium price than they do currently, because the barrier to entry for the thing that is not a movie is gonna continue to get higher and higher, because the expectations are going to get higher and higher. The only $80 games or $100 games are going to be the Red Dead Redemptions and whatnot, and then everything else, I think, is really going to become an indie game or a free to play thing that is much less costly to make, and then that scales over time.
Great stuff from Tony. Big Spang from AVAX. What's your take?
My take is a game for every price, or a price for every game. I think that we need to have more I think this comes from the gamers as well. Gamers need to get used to not paying $60 for a game, and I'm a staunch believer in that. I think that different games have different prices, and that should be reflected in the market value. But then you also have free to play as well, which has kind of come up as this dichotomy between, oh, you're either running free to play or you're a paid game. And I think that having, as gamers get more used to paying 50, 70, 60, 80, 40, all of these different kind of prices for games, they'll get more acclimated to having different expectations of games, as Tony was just saying. So I think that's my take. I think as gamer tastes evolve, and as games develop into larger experiences as well as smaller experiences, people are going to be okay with paying different prices and paying that premium for a larger game and expecting a little off for a smaller game.
I want to go to Kohji, then to Michael O'Connor.
Guys, what are we talking about? We're like, are games going to be more expensive? This is like an Always Sunny episode, man. The gang discovers inflation. Like I used to work at a movie theater, and a ticket for the movies was like $4.50, and now that's like ridiculous. This is like a back in my day, and it's just gonna happen. Like, the premium games are gonna get more expensive. GTA might be $100, and like in 10 years from now, it might be 120 or 130, and we'll be like, oh well, that's just what they fucking cost. Same with ads in games. This all goes back to the dystopian hellscape. But also, I do agree that, like, we are gonna see more variants. You know, like I don't know if people remember when the App Store first came out. Everything in the App Store was either free or 99 cents, and that was it. So you made an app and you charged 99 cents for it, or it cost nothing. And then as the space sort of matured, so did the price variance. I think that like as we see a shift into gaming as like the preferred mode of entertainment, and I think like it's starting to happen over TV, over streaming, over movies, over music, even people want to play games. We're gonna see much more varied experiences. And yes, there will be some like $40 games, there'll be some $60 games, but overall, it's just going to get more expensive. We're going to see $100 games, we're going to see $120 games, we're going to in my lifetime for sure we're going to see $150 games, no question. And I think that anyone who thinks like otherwise is less diluting themselves, but also like if that's just the nature of inflation, I don't think it's like necessarily fully predatory.
I feel like in 10 years, either every game is free to play and then it's just a microtransaction hellscape, to use your verbiage, or we see like $200 games. And I don't think there's much of it in between personally. Michael O'Connor, what say you?
I see it in between. I think, inflation is a key part of this. You know, we spoke a while ago on a previous episode about what our expectations were on the GTA price. I think GTA is a really interesting example because a lot of other gaming companies are essentially hoping for the price of GTA to be as high as possible. So it creates a new benchmark pretty much for AAA prices. And that even includes, you know, like AA or indie studios, because that gives them pretty much the air to lift their prices when margins are pretty much desperately needed across the board. So, but it is notable to think about how things have changed. Like if you adjust for inflation, the last GTA 5, I think, was the cheapest. It was the cheapest. So like it was sold for like I think like $60. But if you adjust for it today, it would be around $80. But that's in comparison to the first GTA from like, I guess, I don't know, 95 or 96 or something around there, which if you adjust for inflation is $90. So it's more expensive. So yeah, this is just part and parcel of consumer price index stuff here. So I think from my perspective, frankly, I hope that they had set a high benchmark. I think what's likely going to happen with this game as well, with games as they move forward, is that we are going to see more and more hybrid models. So the kind of the in between that you're discussing, whereby you may have a upfront cost, but then you've got subscription subscription in there, and then you've also got kind of in-game spend as well. So that's how I see it playing out. I don't see it being a one size fits all like it kind of used to be. I think we're going to see a lot of diversity, but across platforms and across specific kind of verticals, there will be cohesion that needs to be paid attention by developers.
For the record, GTA 1 came out in 1997, and adjusted for inflation, it's $100.
There it is, dude.
Boom.
There it is. Let's hear from OG, who I can't believe is still staying up for us all the way in Dubai. And then we'll tag in Justin Gary.
Yeah, I think I paid like $2 for GTA 3 back in the day, but those were like the shady PlayStation 1 CDs that weren't really official and stuff. That doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, I mean you as the customer decide the price at the end of the day. I think if everyone's happy to pay $100 for video games, then everyone will continue to pay $100. I don't know why we're looking at GTA as like, oh, they might make it $100. There's already multiple games that are on like the PS Store for $100. I think the new Gundam games like 109. I know the Madden ones are always like obscene amounts, like 140, 150, depends on the edition that you get. So how much will GTA be? I don't know, but I think for sure it'll push AAA, quote unquote AAA studios that wanna sell that experience as like, hey, listen, you paid this for GTA, why not pay the same for my game? You know, Activision, obviously. It'll push them to start charging triple digits, but Astrobot won Game of the Year last year. It's one of the most fun games I've played. I put like 50 hours into that, and I think it was only like $30 or $40. So pick your poison at the end of the day. League of Legends is like the one game I play the most, and it's free to play. Marvel Rivals is free to play. So yeah, I think you can't really decide which way it's gonna go. Is it better to be free but have a shit ton of microtransactions, or is it better to just be like $100 and then never charging anything else?
Good question. I'm leaning on Justin Gary to answer.
Yeah, I mean, look, so many of the conversations today have revolved around this, like, how do you deal with like high cost, high risk of making games? And how do you get that and get the customers to care and to pay what you need to keep the game alive? And I think honestly, fast forward 10 years, I don't think any of these high price games stay the same. I think the prices are actually going to crash. I'll take the hot take here, because what you're going to see is like cost of development going down, because you're going to have the tools and AI capabilities of what you can create, that what we're now paying this premium for, which is that AAA like visuals and audio experience, you're going to be able to do, in your garage with a small team. And so when that happens, what people are charging a premium for stops being worth a premium, and the business models will all collapse around what is like a good, longer, sustained thing. Because what we want is a fun game experience and to be immersed in it. And I think that this like spike that's happening is one of many reactions to the fact that the cost of AAA games has bloated, and the ability to acquire an audience has been hard, has gotten more expensive. And I think eventually that's all going to collapse in on itself and force like cheaper but still high quality games to come out from people who know how to make good games and can leverage the new tools to do so in a way that lets you do it for not $100 million, but for like $100,000.
Kohji, I see you throw the thumbs down. I need you to also give me your MVP for the day.
Yeah, sorry, I keep butting in here. But first of all, thumbs down. Only because, like, when have we ever passed the savings on to the consumer? Like, look at COVID. Prices skyrocketed for all this kind of bullshit, and then once COVID was over, it was like, nah, we're just gonna keep it high as fuck. And like, even I'm now like going through a home renovation, right? Like the innovations that we have made in order to like expedite construction and make things cheaper and faster, et cetera, is like through the roof. Like in the 50s, people were laying bricks by hand and all this shit, and now we don't need to do that. And still the costs are astronomically more than they used to be, right? So like I don't think that, like, even though things are going to get faster and better, it's necessarily means that things are going to get cheaper, right? The invisible hand of the market is just going to hold people down. Um, but as far as
Yeah,
MVP goes, oh, go ahead.
yeah, sorry, man. Since you're coming right at me, I gotta at least chat back.
Welcome,
Like, so
Justin.
yeah, it all it all depends what the quality what the quality of competition is, right? If you're in a regulated market like housing, where it's actually regulations and zoning that cause the problem, you can't go down. But if you're in a unregulated, highly competitive market like television, like big screen TVs, the price drops dramatically. And so, I think gaming is a very open, unregulated market with lots of people available to develop and build. So it's exactly the type of space that would push prices down.
I hope that I'm wrong. Let me just put it that way. I hope that I'm wrong. And you know what? I'm going to give Justin MVP just because I like his take, and I enjoyed being on his podcast before. And yeah, MVP Justin.
That's awesome. Shout out to Justin and SolForge Fusion. Also, one of the things that always pisses me off is the TV example is a great one. But for some reason, like snack foods are like just twice as expensive as they used to be. Like to get a bag of Lay's in America is like $7 now. It's fucking crazy. And it all happened during COVID, whenever like food stamps became
Just look
really.
at bottles of water, literally fucking water.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
wild. And so I would imagine that like snack foods is incredibly highly competitive, but somehow they all unanimously have either incurred some cost that I don't understand exists, or all agreed to just fuck us simultaneously.
Shelf
It's the same
space,
company. That's why
shelf
it's the same
space.
three
Yeah,
companies.
yeah. They block people out, and you have to pay for shelf space. So they're able to block out competition quite a bit.
Monopoly by distribution. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to Kevin Lambert, then the Tatted Lawyer.
Yeah. The inflation, it's weird that games haven't gone up per inflation. Really strange. It's probably fueled by a race to make games cheaper, because the success of these $40 and $50 games is really putting pressure on like the 70 plus titles to justify their size. They're like, did this really need to cost $100? And I think that's going to be it's just going to be interesting. I mean, people have called for the death of AAA multi-million, double-digit $1 million game budgets and triple-digit for a long time. I don't think we're ever going to see the death of those games. But as games that are more efficient, like look at Clair Obscur, like they look, they didn't spend $100 million on filler content, and that's a feature of their go-to-market. And that the game was cheaper because of that, although they were like 6 years in development, so you could argue that. So I don't know. I think there's going to be a spectrum. I do think inflation is going to kick in. I agree with what Kohji said. I think it was Kohji that the people will pay what the people will pay. But I don't know if we're going to see $270 games, but if we do, it will be because the market is willing to pay that because the game has something incredible about them that we're all cool with. So it'll be a spectrum, TLDR, and I think that there will be a race as more efficiencies are found through AI and better go-to-market and better budgets to push the games to that $40 and $50 range that has been doing well recently.
I love it. Tatted, over to you then to Gnoc.
Yeah, I'm going to say in 10 years, if we go back, let's say 20 years, right? The average video game costs about $49.99. If you were like me, you'd go to Toys R Us and you'd be consistently in your mom's ear being like, "Hey, buy me this, buy me this, buy me this," and she'd be like, "No." But I vividly remember, obviously, all of them being about $49.99. Now, 20 years later, the average game price is about $70 per game. Obviously, there's the outliers who are the premium, quote unquote, games that are trying to sell for $80, $90, $100. But I'd say the average cost of a game right now is about $69.99. That means in 20 years, the average cost went up about $20. I think we're going to see about the same thing happen in another 10, 15 years as well. Sure, there's going to absolutely be those outlier games like these idiot publishing CEOs that are like, this is a quadruple A game, and they're going to try to smack on these crazy prices. But I think to a lot of the different points here, there's going to be so much gaming content flooding every different platform just because of the ease of creating these games is going to get so much cheaper and easier, especially with the onset of AI coding. So I don't really see the prices going up that much. I definitely see them going up and adjusting for inflation. But if in 15 to 20 years the average price of a game is $99.99, that wouldn't surprise me. But it would surprise me if that was like double that price or triple that price, just because that doesn't actually match up with the current curve in terms of which or how games are actually becoming more expensive over time. So yes, definitely the outliers like GTA for sure. They spent over the cost to build the Burj Khalifa has gone into the development of that game. So, can you say they maybe deserve to put it that high? We don't know. We'll see when the game comes out. But I personally would be surprised if it was anywhere over $99.99 in terms of like around that range. And for today, my MVP absolutely goes to Kate. I think she nailed it in not even almost every single one of her responses. So Kate is for sure my MVP.
Amazing. You love to hear it. Gnoc and Lemz, to finish us up, give us your take on this one and also give us your MVP.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie here, Sam. Not much of substance. My joke about inflation gone. My point about AI gone. I'll give you this. You're not allowed to launch a $100 game unless it's the 5th iteration of that game, because all we want to do is consume slop. So GTA 6, we saw Street Fighter, whatever the fuck it's on, Call of Duty 432. That's okay. $100 for those games, no problem. And I'll give you one piece of information since you asked the question about potato chips. This is some weird knowledge that I have for whatever reason. There's a thing that you should look into called the potato cartel. The way that this works, Sam, is 97% of the entire globe's supply of frozen potatoes is owned by 3 or 4 companies. Each of those companies feed data about their potato costs into a machine that totally none of them own. It's some complete third party, apparently. And that machine spits out price recommendations to all of them, and all of those prices happen to be the same thing. They found a way to fuck us all on potatoes. That's why a bag of chips costs $7.
So they really have found a way to simultaneously fuck us. I haven't heard that with potatoes, but that actually is a thing with light bulbs. There's a light bulb cartel that does the exact same thing. Shout out to Veracity or whatever that YouTube channel is that does that.
Yeah, I saw mine on Morning Brew and Good
Yeah,
Work.
shout out to YouTube, dude. What a fucking tool. Also, shout out to my brother. 15 million subscribers earlier this week. Fucking animal, dude. Gnoc, did you give us your MVP?
I did not. I got lost in the potato thing. Kohji for sure.
Shout out. Lemz, over to you, bud.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate Will's point earlier that we need to normalize like variance of games. Like I always grew up like PlayStation gamer. I feel like PC gamers and like on the Steam side, you kind of got used to more variable pricing. But like, man, on the PlayStation, it was always just like new game, it costs $60. Doesn't matter what it is. It's just like new launch game is $60, and it doesn't set expectations properly at all. Because sometimes you get a game that's like it's basically a glorified standalone DLC, and you pay full price for it going into it, expecting a full game, and then you're like, oh, this is done after 12 hours. Like, why the fuck wasn't this like $40 or something like that? I think normalizing variable pricing based on like how much the game costs, what the expectation is from the players makes way more sense. Like the Clair Obscur devs, even I saw like an article where they said people were questioning the quality of the game when they said it was only going to be 40 or $50 or whatever it was, and that it was going to be unfinished or like it was going to need patches and things like this. And then people were like, oh shit, this is like a totally polished game at this price. And it was just because they did it on a leaner team. The tools have been improving, so it's lower costs. And it's just like, yeah, let's normalize having variable pricing for games and not just like, oh, it's new and I'm launching it, therefore it is $60 or whatever it is adjusted for inflation. And then my MVP for today is going to be Michael. I always like his optimism on things, and of like, hey, we haven't figured it all out yet, and we need to try new shit. So Michael O'Connor, I should say for clarity, because we got two Michaels on the panel today.
We sure do. I'm with you on the variable pricing. I'm with you on PlayStation being a little bit fucky there, but I will say it's way better than what Nintendo does, which is new game $60, old game also $60 forever in perpetuity, always, no matter what. I'm going over to OG next if he's still with us. If he's not asleep, OG, who's your MVP of the day?
My MVP is Gnoc because I love the fact that regardless of whether or not he agrees with you, he just needs to have the last laugh, even if he ends up going down the path of logical fallacies. So yeah, it has to. I respect that, so it has to be Gnoc.
You'll never fucking beat me, OG.
If you try to beat Gnoc, he just drags you down into the mud and beats you with experience. Tony, who's your MVP of the day?
Oh, easily my boy Justin Gary with the hot takes.
I love it, dude. Absolutely crushed today. Justin, who's your MVP?
This was such a great chat all around. I feel weird now because I was gonna give it to Tony because he always makes me freaking laugh every time and delivers some value. So that was gonna be my go-to. So I'm gonna stick with it, even though now it sounds sounds reciprocal. That was my plan. He's my MVP.
A vote for Tony is never a wasted vote, dude. He's an incredible panelist every time. Wills, and then to Kevin. Wills, who's yours?
My vote's going to OG in hopes he comes back more. Love the takes.
Yeah, dude. Shame about the time zones. I would love to have OG on even more often. And Kevin Lambert, who's your MVP? And then we got to get Michael O'Connor's vote.
I'm going with Tatted on this one for his lucid take on the pricing of games over the next short while.
Kevin with the recency bias. I don't hate it. Michael O'Connor, over to you.
It's hard to look beyond knock for that piece of potato trivia. It's a fucking that came from left field. So like, wow. I'm still reeling here. But yeah, no, I got to give it to Kate for kind of for making an interesting point, and creating that amount of dialogue and coming on and defending the point. So yeah, Kate.
That gives us a tie between Justin Gary and Kate Irwin. Kate's dropped down to a listener. She might be on a meeting or something. But Kate, if you want to come up here, I'll split the FaceTime between the two of you to promote what you're working on. But Justin Gary, our MVP of the day, SolForge Fusion, take it away. 30 seconds, whatever you want to plug.
Yeah, man. Well, anybody that likes my hot takes, I'll first say you can go check out justingarydesigns.com. It's got my Substack. I talk about exactly how to like vibe code as a game designer and all the different things. I love giving deep. You can find my podcast with Kohji. And then, yeah, come check out SolForge Fusion. You want to see a single player game that stands on its own and feeds in to a broader community that you can be a part of. It's Web 2, it's Web 3, it's tabletop, it's all in one. It's been an awesome project to work on and get to share. I know there's a lot of great TCG creators creators and enthusiasts. And so, yeah, come check out the games and come enjoy the chats. And I absolutely love it. That's why I love chatting with Kohji here, like that back and forth and pushing against my hot takes and hearing yours. So always happy to engage. So yeah, thanks for having me. And for anybody that wants to join and continue the conversation, you know how to get in touch with me there.
Amazing stuff. I love it, Justin. I have some SolForge Fusion packs on my display behind me. Played a ton whenever Dub was out here. I actually took them and played the physical version with my friends over Christmas, this past Christmas 6 months ago, and we had a blast as well. Got to play in a tournament not too long ago too. I've had a blast, so thanks so much for making a cool game. Kate Irwin, also 30 seconds of FaceTime. Over to you. Thanks so much for coming today and also being the focus of one of our topics.
Thanks. Yeah, great discussion. Really good takes from so many people. Yeah, I write a daily newsletter called The Drop for Blockworks. It covers all things consumer crypto, including games, memes, apps, wallets, all the latest in that space. And you can go to the little at handles, the drop NFT, and click on the link in the bio. That you can find through my profile.
Absolutely. Huge respect for Kate and what she does. Thanks so much for bringing some real journalism to crypto. Lord knows we need it. We appreciate you. Please don't go anywhere. Thank you. And if you guys want to leave us 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we're trying to grow our very own podcast. Also, 5-star Justin Gary's while you're at it, if you happen to be doing that. It's basically like summoning your friends to the party. This podcast is always a co-op campaign, and we're stuck on nightmare mode, so we would appreciate it. And of course, Avalanche is the official game of Gamified. It's more than just a blockchain chain. It's a winter wonderland of innovation with $100 million AI-funded partnerships with gaming giants like Gunzilla Games, T1 Esports, Solo Leveling, and more. Avalanche is breaking the ice and setting the standard for the future of Web3 gaming. So, whether you're a seasoned pro or a curious newbie, come explore the avalanche of possibilities and discover a world where the snow never melts and the fun never stops. I'm on some old intros, dude. I rewrote these. My organization is killing my productivity. But get ready to rumble with the gatekeepers who are flipping the script and giving the power back to the players. They're the ones that are turning the metaverse into a melting pot of ideas and a crucible of creativity. They're the ones that are also empowering players to take control of their digital destinies. Man, I'm in shambles over here. Game 7, shout out, infrastructure. I love them. They do great stuff. I appreciate you guys. And millions of plays every day, but only a few build them. Farcade is flipping the script. No code tools, on-chain publishing, and built-in social distribution. Your game gets real players, real feedback, and real reach with the Farcade. Plus, you can check out our game jam with Doodles right now that we just announced with $5,000 in prizes, and we have one coming up with one of these special panelists next week, which we haven't announced yet. I'm very, very excited about that. Can't wait to tell you guys more. But shout out to the Farcade, the official game of Gamified. And thank you, all of our amazing panelists, even if you didn't win MVP, Kohji, Tatted, Kevin, Michael O'Connor, Gnoc, OG, Tony V, Spang, absolutely banger panel. Also, Sinjin has been hanging out in the audience. I appreciate all of you guys. It's been such a great episode. We'll be back same time, same place, 4 p.m. Eastern next Wednesday, and I'm late for a meeting already, so bye-bye now. Have a great day, guys.
I was robbed. This is a hellscape. I should have been MVP.